Okie dokie. Okay. Oh my gosh, what is my hair doing? I don't know. Alright, sorry it took me a second to get going, but good morning everybody. I had to finish up making some pancakes and stuff for my kids this morning, so a little bit behind. But thank you for joining us here at Grow the Info, where we like to bring information to you guys and good information that you can find yourself instead of just taking my word on it, and you will probably hear lots of funny sound effects and stuff in the background, so just to warn you ahead of time. And another warning, we are going to be going over some of the stuff that has been happening in the Iran and Iraq situation. And if that interests you, then go ahead and keep watching. But I just want to do a little disclaimer. If you are looking for somebody to bash Trump on his actions, you're not going to find that here. If you are looking for somebody to, praise him a whole bunch on his actions, you're not going to find that here either. I am an independent, and I think very independently about these things a lot of times. So that is the perspective that you're going to get. Neither Democrat nor Republican, but separate from that. Not even in the middle, right? So independents are we're not stuck to political party loyalties kind of things. So here you're going to be getting information that is not swayed by political views in that sense, just so you know. I know there are a lot of people that are very upset about his actions, and there are a lot of people that are very happy about his actions. So if you are looking for somebody to be, very, very passionate on one side or the other, then, the stream probably won't be for you, because that's not how I'm going to be. But we are going to be going over the House concurrent resolution that was just passed last night, and that does have to do with President Trump's actions and future presidents' actions in these kinds of situations. There are some people that are saying that it restricts his ability to act, and there are some other people that are saying that it does nothing of the kind. It doesn't even criticize him. So we are going to be going over that and some of the different views regarding it, and we are going to be going over what he said about the whole Iran situation and what Pompeo has been saying as well. Remember, there was a plane crash that happened. I believe it was going from Ukraine to Iran or Tehran, and either way it was shot down apparently by Iranian forces. Iran has said that they have not, but there are inspectors. There are U.S. inspectors that say that they believe that it was shot down by Iranian forces, not necessarily on purpose, and I guess I'll be covering that in a moment as well. That is not, as I said, Iran is not claiming that that is what happened. So, let's go ahead and get into it. I guess the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to play President Trump's remarks that he has made, the January 3rd remarks that he made to the press right after this happened, right after they took out Qasem Soleimani. And, I guess I should do a recap of everything that's happened quick. And then we are going to be playing the remarks that he just made recently to the press, and we're going to be comparing them. I'm going to speed up the speed of them a little bit, so they hopefully won't take very long. And I really can't stand listening to people talk super slow anyway, so we're going to speed it up. Just to recap what has been happening, there has been some conflict going on between the U.S. and Iran regarding a drone strike that the U.S. carried out in Iraq. There was an Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani, and I pulled up his Wikipedia page so that we can get a little bit of background on him. So I will be going over that as well. The U.S. drone strike took him out. The U.S. is claiming that he had been on a journey to the point that he was at the Iraqi embassy, I believe it was, or an embassy in Iraq. And he had made several stops along the way to that point. The U.S. is saying that he was going to plan some kind of threat to either the United States or American property or personnel. And so they went ahead and took him out. And he was a very high-standing general in the area. He had a long military history. He had been fighting ISIS in certain areas around that area and in different countries. He was working in different countries, so not just Iran and Iraq. So there have been a lot of people in the area over there in the Middle East that are upset about his death. There was a huge funeral procession. It went through multiple towns and had a huge line of people that were joining the procession. And there was actually some commotion that happened in it. And apparently, with some more information that has come out, there was a stampede that happened, and that was caused because there were protesters, and there was the funeral procession, and they were in disagreement, and so there was apparently some fights that broke out. There was a stampede that happened, and I believe the final count was 35 to 40 people were dead or injured in that. So it shows you how widely known he was and respected by a lot of people over there. Now, I'm not saying that that means he was a good guy or anything. I'm not saying that. When you're fighting ISIS, especially in areas like that, we have found that over in the Middle East, if you're wanting to get one rebel group to fight with you and you're wanting to arm them, well, they might be fighting with another group and arming another group and training them, and that other group is somebody that you don't agree with. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on over there. There's a lot of tactics that are used to be able to combat ISIS that in America we would not agree with. So I'm not saying that he was a good guy or anything. I'm not saying that either. Again, you're going to get kind of a very independent view here. And I hope my stream's working okay. It's a little bit laggy on my end. Let me quick before I share... Okay, there's nobody in my chat. Usually in the mornings there aren't anybody in really any streams. So I hope it's working okay. If nothing else, I hope that the replay is at least decent. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to this view. Let's see. And okay, so now that I've talked about everything that we're going to talk about, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We try to put out good information to you guys, information that you can verify yourselves. I like to share my sources. And if you go to our website, growtheinfo.com is now our new URL. We have officially switched from thedailygreens.org to growtheinfo.com. If you are still going to thedailygreens.org, then it will redirect you to growtheinfo.com. So make sure if you have us bookmarked that you switch your bookmark, because as of, I believe, March, that URL, thedailygreens.org, will no longer redirect. So make sure you have changed it. I think actually in the description box it's probably still The Daily Green, so I gotta fix that too. But we do try to put out lists of press releases and recall notices and some things like that on the website. So please be sure to check it out. We have a member section and all kinds of cool stuff on there. And if you would like to follow us on Twitter, we also put out recall notices on there. Our handle is @growtheinfo, fairly easy to find. I also try to retweet some of the breaking information that comes out, or once it's kind of verified a little bit, and some of the political quotes and everything. I've been trying to, in the past I was kind of refraining from retweeting political people and everything, but I've just decided to go ahead and do that because some of them I disagree with, but they got some good tweets. So let's go ahead and play the video of Trump's remarks to the press. So this is Qasem Soleimani, and again, we will go over his Wikipedia page in a minute, but I want to get off of that screen. I will not be showing the Wikipedia page while I read through it. If you are an independent journalist, if you are a YouTuber, just so you know, when you're reading through a mainstream media article or on somebody else's website, like, just, you can tell people the source and keep the camera off of it, because sometimes you can get flagged for that. So please be aware. And I wanted to find, okay, here we go. This is from 6 days ago.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
This is from January 3rd. This is right after they conducted the airstrike, okay? So this is what we're going to be watching. And again, this is sped up. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So this is sped up a little bit if you want to go back and watch this yourself so that you can, maybe understand it a little bit better. This one is titled President Trump Delivers a Statement on Iran, and this is from the White House YouTube page.
As president, my highest and most solemn duty is the defense of our nation and its citizens. Last night, at my direction, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike that killed the #1 terrorist anywhere in the world, Qasem Soleimani. Imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him. Under my leadership, America's policy is unambiguous to terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American. We will find you, we will eliminate you, we will always protect our diplomats, service members, all Americans, and our allies. For years, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its ruthless Quds Force, under Soleimani's leadership, has targeted, injured, and murdered hundreds of American civilians and servicemen. The recent attacks on U.S. targets in Iraq, including rocket strikes that killed an American and injured 4 American servicemen very badly, as well as a violent assault on our embassy in Baghdad, were carried out at the direction of Soleimani. Soleimani made the death of innocent people his sick passion, contributing to terrorist plots as far away as New Delhi and London. Today, we remember and honor the victims of Soleimani's many atrocities, and we take comfort in knowing that his reign of terror is over. Soleimani has been perpetrating acts of terror to destabilize the Middle East for the last 20 years. What the United States did yesterday should have been done long ago. A lot of lives would have been saved. Just recently, Soleimani led the brutal repression of protesters in Iran, where more than 1,000 innocent civilians were tortured and killed by their own government. We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war. I have deep respect for the Iranian people. They are a remarkable people with an incredible heritage and unlimited potential. We do not seek regime change. However, the Iranian regime's aggression in the region, including the use of proxy fighters to destabilize its neighbors, must end, and it must end now. The future belongs to the people of Iran, those who seek peaceful coexistence and cooperation, not the terrorist warlords who plunder their nation to finance bloodshed abroad. The United States has the best military by far anywhere in the world. We have the best intelligence in the world. If Americans anywhere are threatened, we have all of those targets already fully identified, and I am ready and prepared to take whatever action is necessary. And that in particular refers to Iran. Under my leadership, we have destroyed the ISIS territorial caliphate. And recently, American Special Operations Forces killed the terrorist leader known as al-Baghdadi. The world is a safer place without these monsters. America will always pursue the interests of good people, great souls, while seeking peace, harmony, and friendship with all of the nations of the world. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure you can hear my kid in the background. All right, so that was what he said right after the airstrike was conducted. Now let's see what he said very recently to the press. I believe this was just the other day. We will look at the date. And I pull it up too. Again, this is from the White House YouTube page. Fairly easy to find. Here we go.
As long as I'm
Okay, it is sped up. All right, let's go ahead and listen.
President of the United States, Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Good morning. I'm pleased to inform you the American people should be extremely grateful and happy. No Americans were harmed in last night's attack by the Iranian regime. We suffered no casualties. All of our soldiers are safe, and only minimal damage was sustained at our military bases. Our great American forces are prepared for anything. Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world. No American or Iraqi lives were lost because of the precautions taken, the dispersal of forces, and an early warning system that worked very well. I salute the incredible skill and courage of America's men and women in uniform. For far too long, all the way back to 1979 to be exact, nations have tolerated Iran's destructive and destabilizing behavior in the Middle East and beyond. Those days are over. Iran has been the leading sponsor of terrorism, and their pursuit of nuclear weapons threatens the civilized world. We will never let that happen. Last week, we took decisive action to stop a ruthless terrorist from threatening American lives. At my direction, the United States military eliminated the world's top terrorist, Qasem Soleimani. As the head of the Quds Force, Soleimani was personally responsible for some of the absolutely worst atrocities. He trained terrorist armies, including Hezbollah, launching terrorist strikes against civilian targets. He fueled bloody civil wars all across the region. He viciously wounded and murdered thousands of U.S. troops, including the planting of roadside bombs that maim and dismember their victims. Soleimani directed the recent attacks on U.S. personnel in Iraq that badly wounded 4 service members and killed 1 American, and he orchestrated the violent assault on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. In recent days, he was planning new attacks on American targets, but we stopped him. Soleimani's hands were drenched in both American and Iranian blood. He should have been terminated long ago. By removing Soleimani, we have sent a powerful message to terrorists. If you value your own life, you will not threaten the lives of our people. As we continue to evaluate options in response to Iranian aggression, the United States will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime. These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior. In recent months alone, Iran has seized ships in international waters, fired an unprovoked strike on Saudi Arabia, and shot down 2 U.S. drones. Iran's hostilities substantially increased after the foolish Iran nuclear deal was signed in 2013, and they were given $150 billion, not to mention $1.8 billion in cash. Instead of saying thank you to the United States, they chanted death to America. In fact, they chanted death to America the day the agreement was signed. Then Iran went on a terror spree, funded by the money from the deal, and created hell in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Iraq. The missiles fired last night at us and our allies were paid for with the funds made available by the last administration. The regime also greatly tightened the reins on their own country, even recently killing 1,500 people at the many protests that are taking place all throughout Iran. The very defective JCPOA expires shortly anyway and gives Iran a clear and quick path to nuclear breakout. Iran must abandon its nuclear ambitions and end its support for terrorism. The time has come for the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Russia, and China to recognize this reality. They must now break away from the remnants of the Iran deal, or JCPOA. And we must all work together toward making a deal with Iran that makes the world a safer and more peaceful place. We must also make a deal that allows Iran to thrive and prosper and take advantage of its enormous untapped potential. Iran can be a great country. Peace and stability cannot prevail in the Middle East as long as Iran continues to foment violence, unrest, hatred, and war. The civilized world must send a clear and unified message to the Iranian regime. Your campaign of terror, murder, mayhem will not be tolerated any longer. It will not be allowed to go forward. Today, I am going to ask NATO to become much more involved in the Middle East process. Over the last 3 years, under my leadership, our economy is stronger than ever before, and America has achieved energy independence. These historic accomplishments change our strategic priorities. These are accomplishments that nobody thought were possible. And options in the Middle East became available. We are now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world. We are independent, and we do not need Middle East oil. The American military has been completely rebuilt under my administration at a cost of $2.5 trillion. U.S. armed forces are stronger than ever before. Our missiles are big, powerful, accurate, lethal, and fast. Under construction are many hypersonic missiles. The fact that we have this great military and equipment, however, does not mean we have to use it. We do not want to use it. American strength, both military and economic, is the best deterrent. 3 months ago, after destroying 100% of ISIS and its territorial caliphate, we killed the savage leader of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, who was responsible for so much death, including the mass beheadings of Christians, Muslims, and all who stood in his way. He was a monster. Al-Baghdadi was trying again to rebuild the ISIS caliphate and failed. Tens of thousands of ISIS fighters have been killed or captured during my administration. ISIS is a natural enemy of Iran. The destruction of ISIS is good for Iran, and we should work together on this and other shared priorities. Finally, to the people and leaders of Iran, we want you to have a future, and a great future, one that you deserve, one of prosperity at home and harmony with the nations of the world. The United States is ready to embrace peace with all who seek it. I want to thank you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so let me hold on. Close this door, do this, do that. Okay, so as Trump said, he's saying that it's not about the oil over there and everything, and that we don't have to worry about it affecting trade because we're not reliant on their oil. A lot of people, though, are saying that, like, Russia and China, they do business with them regarding oil. So our actions in Iran and Iraq can affect other countries that maybe we are looking to affect. So we are also going to go over some press releases that are from the state.gov website. Those are from the actual State Department. I had them pulled up on another thing. I'm going to have to switch them over. So here in a second, after I go through some of the stuff that I have pulled up, I'm going to have to put it on pause for a second so that I can switch all of the other links over, because there were a lot of press releases that actually had to do with this situation. So I will have to do that in a moment. First of all, let's look at who Qasem Soleimani was. Trump said that he was a bad guy, that he had been one of the biggest terrorists in the area, and he was, of course, praising himself and his administration for taking out a lot of the caliphate and stuff that was going on over there, and he was saying that people in the region are trying to rebuild the caliphate and that they are trying to work with ISIS. And how he worded things, it sounds like he was saying that Qasem Soleimani was working with ISIS. However, if you read the actual transcript of what Trump says, he seems to be saying more that he's taken out these other groups, al-Baghdadi and everything, and they have been working with ISIS and trying to rebuild the caliphate. You know what? Let me see if I think I have that. Yes, okay, so I have the transcript of the speech that we just heard. So sometimes when you're hearing somebody say things, it's communicated in a certain way, but when you read it, it's like, oh, well, that's how the sentence is actually broken down. There have been a lot of people making fun of Trump, too, for his speech with this and, saying terrorists and stuff like that. As humans, we all misspeak. I know I do a lot. I have, nerve damage in my jaw from a dental surgery I had a few months ago, and sometimes I'm talking and my mouth is just like, bleh, no, I'm not cooperating. So I don't know why they're making fun of him for that. I don't know, maybe because he doesn't correct himself. I know he's never going to watch this, but Trump, if you watch this, it's okay to correct yourself. It's okay. I have to do it a lot. So maybe I'm just trying to tell myself that it's okay. Okie dokie. So this is why I actually like looking at the press releases and stuff and the actual text breakdown of what is said. Because whether or not he's reading off of a prompter or not, they do go back and type out everything that he says. So it says Soleimani's hands were drenched in both American and Iranian blood. He should have been terminated long ago. By removing Soleimani, we have sent a powerful message to terrorists. If you value your own life, you will not threaten the lives of our people. As we continue to evaluate options in response to Iranian aggression, the United States will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime. These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior. So the sanctions, for those of you that don't know, when our country imposes sanctions, then it means that we're not going to trade with them, and we are condemning trade with them with other people, kind of thing. There, obviously, we know about the sanctions with China, North Korea, and stuff like that. And these sanctions sometimes can have kind of widespread effects. Like, for example, North Korea. We have sanctions against North Korea because we don't like what they're doing. We don't like their behavior and how they're treating their people. Well, because of our sanctions and because of the whole global economic thing and these alliances and everything, the only country that's willing to trade with North Korea is China. So, that sometimes sanctions kind of end up pushing groups and countries together that, maybe it's best if they weren't working together, but our government likes to use sanctions a lot. There are sanctions against Venezuela, and we oftentimes, there's a sanction, and then we're like, okay, well, you can't take care of your people, and you can't do this and that because of the sanctions that are passed on you, because we didn't like your behavior. So either now we're going to pass more sanctions, or we're going to go in with military force and do something about it, or, we're going to prop up this side of the political spectrum over there, or the other side, which is kind of what we're doing in Venezuela right now. So that's what our government likes to do with sanctions, in case you're unaware. So they're talking about even more sanctions against them. And I wonder exactly what the Trump administration and President Trump himself would view as an acceptable change in behavior for them to repeal some of these sanctions. Okay, and then towards the bottom, it said his quote about, he's saying that al-Baghdadi was trying again to rebuild the ISIS caliphate and failed. So I have seen some people saying like, Trump is saying this about Qasem Soleimani and this other thing about him, but sometimes when you look at the actual text breakdown of what he says, it's a little bit different. So Qasem Soleimani, let's look at his Wikipedia page. This is it. Oh yeah, I'm not supposed to show it. So let's do this. Hi guys. Hi. You can just look at my face while I read this. Okay, so this is from the Wikipedia page on him. Of course, Wikipedia is not necessarily the best place for information, but it's an easy to find, source. And while they don't go, Wikipedia is not going to want to be ridiculed by a bunch of people. So they don't put anything that's, really politically one way or the other. So it's kind of, skimming the information is what Wikipedia often does. So let's just go ahead and read what they have decided to put on their page. Okay, he was an Iranian major general in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and from 1998 until his death in 2020, commander of the Quds Force, a division primarily responsible for extraterritorial military, I almost said extraterrestrial, extraterritorial military and clandestine operations. Soleimani began his military career at the start of the Iran-Iraq War during the 1980s, eventually commanding the 41st Division. He was later involved in extraterritorial operations, providing military assistance to Hezbollah in Lebanon in 2012. Soleimani helped bolster the government of Bashar al-Assad, a key Iranian ally, during Iran's operations in the Syrian civil war, and helped to plan the Russian military intervention in Syria. Soleimani oversaw the Kurdish and Shia militia forces in Iraq and assisted the Iraqi forces that advanced against ISIL in 2014 to 2015. Soleimani was one of the first to support Kurdish forces, providing them with arms. And I will pull up a map too of where Kurdish territory kind of is. Soleimani was widely popular among Iranians, where his supporters viewed him as a selfless hero fighting Iran's enemies. Soleimani was personally sanctioned by the United Nations and the European Union and was designated as a terrorist by the United States. Soleimani was killed as a target U.S. drone strike on the 3rd of January in 2020 in Baghdad. And then it goes off on to more details about his life and kind of biography kinds of stuff. So remember, Trump did say that ISIS is an enemy of Iran. So a lot of people viewed Qasem Soleimani as being, sorry, I'm trying to transfer stuff, as being a hero for Iran. He fought with a lot of different forces in the area, and he had a very long military history. And there's been so much pain and suffering that's been happening over there in the region for so long. He was one of the kind of steadfast people that was, clearly he was about Iran. He was probably, a nationalist kind of thing. How we would view maybe some Russian generals and stuff. It's like they're all about their country. So if ISIS is an enemy of Iran, then one would assume that he was, trying to fight ISIS as much as he could in the different areas. So, okay. Right, the map of Kurdistan. My kids are making all of the noises today. They've been fairly good recently about not being super noisy, but today they are just all about it. Okay. So it says Kurdistan or Greater Kurdistan is a roughly defined geocultural historical region wherein the Kurdish people from a prominent majority population and Kurdish culture, languages, and national identity have historically been based. So when you look at the map, it's not like it's just, there's not a clear defined area. As they said, it's, kind of a roughly defined. It's more defined by the people and the culture of the area. And Pompeo did have a conversation with an official that is over those people, and I'm going to have to transfer that as well. So you know what? I'm going to, before we get into the press releases on this, I'm going to go ahead and pause this for a second. My kids need help with something anyway. So I'm going to pause it. We will be back on in about 5 minutes. I'm going to transfer all the links so we can just get through all of the other information when we come back. So thank you everybody so far for watching, and I hope you enjoy the tunes. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already by hitting the red subscribe button. Turn on bell notifications so that you can be notified when we go live and upload new content. Check out our website, growtheinfo.com, and you can follow us on Twitter at growtheinfo. All right, where's my be right back screen? Okay, there it is. Okie dokie. Alright, thank you for waiting. Sorry about that. Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, or if you skipped ahead in the replay, then welcome to Grow the Info. We like to bring you information here. I forgot my little spiel thing that I'm supposed to do. So here we like to bring you information, good information that you can find yourself and verify yourself so that you can present it to maybe your audience or family members or whatever and have all of the good stuff to back up what you're saying. So if you want to check us out, growtheinfo.com is our website. We try to put out press releases on there and all kinds of other good information, all linked back to official sources, no third-party reporting on it kind of stuff there. So check that out if you are interested. You can also follow us on Twitter at growtheinfo is our handle, and we try to put out the recall notices when they are sent to us. I try to put them out on there as soon as I can, and also little quotes from politicians and some other things that might be going on. And we also put out notices when we're going live, so make sure that you follow us on Twitter. And I'm sorry, again, if you can hear the children in the background. Today is a noisy day at our house. Lots of energy, apparently. Okay, so now we are going to be going through press releases that have come out recently from the State Department regarding this matter. And one of these does have to do with the airplane, which I did not I did not brief you on yet. So, if you've been hearing about a plane crash that happened recently, oh no, wait, you know what? Maybe I did address it a little bit. So there was a plane crash that I believe was going from Ukraine over Iran. Either it was going to Tehran or somewhere else, but it was over Iran, and it crashed. There are U.S. inspectors that have not been allowed to view the stuff, that have not they have not been allowed to participate in the investigation thus far, and they are saying that they believe that it was shot down by Iranian forces as a mistake. There have Prime Minister. He's a Prime Minister, Trudeau, made a comment that was very similar, that it could possibly be that it was accidentally shot down. And in that way, the world perspective, or maybe not the world, but the perspective of the West so far has been like, oh, that's really heartbreaking, but it's an understandable mistake, which I guess I will go over a little bit of why that's kind of the narrative that's being put out right now. So there were black boxes that were recovered from that crash, but the Iranian government is saying that they will not give the information over to the U.S. They are saying that there is information on there that is missing. So, but they are willing to work with the Canadian investigators on this. The people on the plane were mostly Iranian and Canadian. I don't believe any Americans were on the plane. I believe it was Iranians and Canadians, at least in majority. There were some children and some apparently recently married couples and some students and stuff on there. So, very sad, very heartbreaking. My heart goes out to those families so much. So let's go ahead and go over the press releases. There, like I said, there is one regarding that. So let's go ahead and jump into this. And let's see. So we are first going, and then after I go over these press releases, we are going to be talking about the House resolution that was just recently passed regarding Trump's use of force and his actions with this drone strike. So if you want to get these press releases from the State Department, all you have to do is go to state.gov. At the top you will see it says press, business, current employees, job seekers, students, travelers. If you click on press, and then you click on press releases, you can see it also gives you secretary speeches, a briefing schedule. You can have a lot of this information sent to you as well if you go to the bottom where it says join us and sign up for their email subscriptions. So let's click on the press releases so I can show you that this is where you get the information. I already have them pulled up, but I just want to show you guys. Again, here at Grow the Info, I am all about sharing my sources and showing you guys how you can get this information. So these are the press releases, and they are listed newest to oldest. So whenever you pull up the webpage, then it will be the newest one on top, and you can see the newest one is the U.S. continued partnership with Iraq, and I do have that one pulled up that we will go over. But first, again, we just looked at where the Kurdistan region is. So Secretary Pompeo did a call with Kurdistan regional government, Prime Minister Barzani. I'm sorry, I'm not good at pronouncing things. This was January 3rd, 2020. So this, and obviously it's very short, but it's important because it shows that right after the airstrike happened, Pompeo was on the ball and on the phone nonstop with multiple countries, especially ones that are in the area that we are trying to work with. So he pretty much spoke with the regional government's prime minister, Masroor Barzani. Secretary Pompeo discussed President Trump's recent decision to take defensive action in response to imminent threats to American lives. I'm tongue-tied now. The Secretary made clear that the United States remains committed to de-escalation. Secretary Pompeo also thanked Prime Minister Barzani for his partnership with the United States. And that is all that it says right there. And what's interesting is that pretty much if there is more to say, if the other side agrees and if there is, a lot of cordial discussion, it will state more. It will say more. So as short as this is, the fact that it is short and it just says that, and it does not share the opinion of the Kurdistan Prime Minister, then that kind of says something. I'm wondering if they probably were not too happy about it. They probably weren't. Remember, Qasem Soleimani did a lot in that whole region. He worked with a few different countries. So I don't know what the Kurdistan view of him was. So this is his call with Iraqi President Barham Salih. He discussed the recent decision to take defensive action, and he made clear that the U.S. remains committed to de-escalation. President Salih agreed on the need to reduce tensions in the region. The Secretary reiterated U.S. commitment to a sovereign and independent Iraq. So see, it does, even something as simple as him being like, yeah, I agree, there needs to not be war. They do state that because they want, of course, the State Department wants it to seem like they are very, very good at working with these other countries. So if the other side agrees with them at all, then they make sure that they put like a little, they want to show that because they want you to be like, oh, wow, see, they're working together and it's all good. It's all gravy, baby. So after that, they oftentimes also, they put this stuff kind of in chronological order in a way. So more than likely in the call, Secretary made it clear that, U.S. remains committed to de-escalation. And then dude was like, yeah, war is bad. And then the Secretary was like, yeah, well, we want a sovereign and independent Iraq. So sometimes the flow of conversations and stuff, obviously, we don't have a recording of this. I wish that they released recordings of these things. But sometimes the flow of a conversation can kind of show if the other side, if they're wanting to indicate their position more with, just a slight opinion. They're not wanting to be like, yeah, you did this horrible stuff, and they're still wanting to work with the U.S. government. They're not going to call out our actions a lot. It's just like when you're trying to speak to a friend and you're like, I don't like what you did, but you still want to be their friend, That's kind of what it sounds like. Excuse me. The United States and Kazakhstan signed an open skies agreement. I have mentioned this in previous streams, but I have not. This is the first stream that I am doing on this specifically, on the whole Middle East thing specifically, so I am bringing this up again. On December 30th, 2019, the U.S. Ambassador to Kazakhstan, William H. Musser, and Kazakhstani Minister of Industry and Infrastructure Development, Beybut Adamkulov, signed the air transport agreement between the government of the United States and the government of the Republic of Kazakhstan. The agreement establishes a modern civil aviation relationship with Kazakhstan consistent with the U.S. Open Skies international aviation policy. It includes unrestricted capacity and frequency of services. Hold on a second. I gotta put this on pause. My boys are like fighting and throwing each other into the wall. Hold on a second. Okay, I guess they weren't fighting, they were just playing very roughly. They were both just smiling and cheesing, and they're looking at me like, what are you doing trying to wreck our fun? Oh my goodness, little boys. You're going to hear more banging and stuff in the background probably. They're crazy today. Okay, so as we just said, the agreement says unrestricted capacity and frequency of services, open route rights, and liberal charter regime, and open code sharing opportunities. Let's highlight that. Open code sharing opportunities. What the heck does that mean? Oh my goodness. In our 5G digital age with Big Brother constantly watching us, I'm not sure I like that phrase. Open skies agreements allow airlines to make commercial decisions based on market demand without intervention from government regulators. Let's highlight that too as we read on. Air carriers can provide more affordable, convenient, and efficient air services to consumers and shippers, thereby promoting travel and trade. This agreement with Kazakhstan will further expand our strong economic and commercial partnership, as well as promote people-to-people ties. It will create new opportunities for airlines, travel companies, and customers. It commits both governments to high standards of aviation safety and security. The agreement also represents a step toward the liberalization of civil aviation in Central Asia and expands Central Asia's connectivity with the world. And then information on the aviation policy can be found here, state.gov/civil-air-transport-agreements. So, again, without intervention from government regulators. I first saw this right when it was posted. What was the date? Let's see, January 6th. So 3 days after the airstrike. At this time, they had also announced that there were troops that were going over to Iraq. And remember, there was, well, if you don't know, I guess, there was a discrepancy on if we were going to be pulling out our military troops from Iraq or not. Apparently the government, the parliament there, voted for U.S. military force to leave. They're like, we don't want you here. And the U.S. government apparently drafted up a letter saying, okay, we're going to GTFO. And apparently that letter was not supposed to go out, but it was leaked to the press. I believe it did actually make it to the hands of the Iraqi parliament as well. And there's been a lot of media backlash over that and over the kind of unprofessional nature of this draft being sent out when what was in the draft was not true. It indicated that we were going to be pulling our troops out, and instead we ended up sending in 3,000 to 3,500 more troops to the area. Now, when they deployed these troops, the troops were not allowed to take their cell phones or communication devices with them. They were also not allowed to tell their families where they were going. If you are unaware of military happenings, this is not a usual kind of deployment. I have friends that have been deployed. I live right by Eglin Air Force Base, so I know people that have been deployed multiple times. And yes, they can usually take like cell phones and communication stuff with them, unless it's some kind of, special intelligence matter or something very serious that they're going into. And oftentimes the families do know where they're going. So that understandably has been very concerning to the military families that are dealing with this. It was, I believe, an 18-hour deployment. So usually you will get notified in advance when you are going to be deployed. That way you can get your stuff together. Military men and women, service members, do not just work for the military. A lot of them do have other kinds of jobs and things that they're doing, other commitments here in the US. So to give them an 18-hour deployment order is very stressful on families. And then to be on top of it told that you're not allowed to take devices with you that would allow you to communicate with your family and possibly be able to fix whatever loose ends that you had to leave when you were deployed. It's very stressful on the military families. So if you're a military family, then you have all my sympathy regarding that matter. That's kind of very serious. And so this press release regarding the Open Skies Agreement with Kazakhstan came out right at the same time. Now, to me, that's kind of, it might indicate some possibility of possibly where people are going, or at least one of the places that the U.S. is going to be seeing as maybe like a bounce pad for, is that the right term? I just pulled that from a video game that my kids like to play, Little Big Planet. They're going to see it as the bounce pad to go to the next level, to other countries out there and do some stuff. As it said, the government is not going to need to step in on this matter. Commercial airlines are going to be able to fly as they see fit, as the market demands. Now, if you are trying to deploy a lot of troops to an area and you don't want the people in the area, you don't want the bad guys to know where you're going and what's going on, then oftentimes it would probably be a good idea, at least in my opinion, is to send them not in one group and to make use of things like commercial flights. Because you can send like a dude on an airplane, he doesn't have to be in uniform, to a country, and he could be part of whatever kind of military, and people aren't necessarily going to know. Especially with the U.S. and having Kazakhstan working so closely together on this, it's less likely that Kazakhstan officials, if they were aware that the U.S. was sending troops there, that they're gonna, yell out to Iran or anything and be like, hey, this is where they're coming to. Garbage truck is late today. So that was my take on that when that came out. We have more press releases to go through, so let's continue. Ukrainian Airlines flight PS752. So this, again, very short little blurb. This was on January 8th, so this was 2 days ago. The U.S. Department of State extends our deepest condolences to the families and friends of the 176 passengers and crew killed in the tragic crash of Ukraine International Airlines flight PS752. The United States will continue to follow this incident closely and stands prepared to offer Ukraine all possible assistance. The United States calls for complete cooperation with any investigation into the cause of the crash. And again, Iran has said that they are not going to be necessarily cooperating with the U.S. on this. I would not necessarily blame them with all of the other things that are going on. As I said earlier, from my understanding, there were no Americans on the flight. So while an international investigation is oftentimes good because more developed countries can have better methods for being able to figure things out and better scientific equipment to calculate, exactly what path the plane took, and like ballistics kind of stuff. Like, we do have a lot of that very high-tech equipment and algorithms and equation know-how and everything in the United States. So I understand the United States being like, well, we can help with the investigation, but I also completely understand Iran being like, yeah, no, no, like, there weren't any Americans on the plane, and we have tensions with you guys right now. We don't have tensions with Canada, and there were Canadians on the plane, and they have good criminal know-how and stuff too. We'll just work with them. So I kind of understand it from that perspective as well. Let me know what you guys think, either in the chat, which we always have open, or in the comments if you're watching this on the replay, which, by the way, thank you so much. But let me know what you think. If you were Iran, would you feel the need to allow the U.S. to have a hand in this investigation when, like, it wasn't, the airline was not from the U.S. It's not part of the Boeing 737 MAX recall. It is not part of that at all. This plane does have a very good safety history. So would you feel the need, if you were Iranian, to work with the U.S. on this, or just Canada? I was going to say something else on it, and I forgot what it was. I totally forgot what it was. Okay, we're just going to move on. I don't know. Okay, so let's switch back over to this. Okay, so the senior State Department official on State Department 2019, successes for the Political Military Affairs Bureau. So this is from the Office of the Spokesperson's Press Correspondence Room in Washington, D.C. So this is not Mike Pompeo himself speaking, or the president. This is from the Office of the Spokesperson. And I'm not going to read through a lot of this. I'm just going to skim quickly. Back in 2019, we certainly had some figures that I'm proud of. I mentioned our industry. When we look at defense industry and aerospace, contributed to a growth of $170 billion in 2019. And when you equate that to job security and creation, an estimate of 250 million jobs. So this is why I recently mentioned, if you watch Snafu Snaps' streams, I was talking to him about some of this stuff recently. If you don't watch his streams, go ahead and look up Snafu Snaps on YouTube, or you can look for snafusnaps.com. But I recently had a conversation with him regarding the whole kind of war aspect and how it can prop up economies. So this is a very good example. This is from the government. They are saying, like, we did a lot with defense industry and aerospace, and it contributed a lot to the economy. So when people talk about using war to prop up economies, that's what they're talking about. When you have a war happen, there's a lot of things that need to be manufactured. There's a lot of people that need to be overseeing that. There's a lot of upkeep that needs to happen, secretarial work, all kinds of stuff. You know, factories end up producing more of this product or that product, so they have to hire more people. So war is definitely something that keeps the economy going. And I also did mention to Snafu that with global situations like what's happening in Australia, oftentimes instead of that being a situation which propels the globe towards peace, it does the opposite. There have already been kind of economic issues going on in the globe, and something like a countrywide national disaster oftentimes just creates global markets that are, looking to keep churning. Okie dokie. I don't remember exactly the quotes I was wanting to pull from this. Moving forward into 2020, we are certainly not taking our eye off the ball when we're looking at great power competition. I referenced that at the top. I could tell you, looking back at particular places of travel in 2019, one could anticipate my focus will certainly align with where we are bolstering partners that are seeking to become closer not only with the U.S., but more interoperable with other partners. So, for example, Kazakhstan. And then it goes on to state questions and answers and all kinds of stuff. So this is, I read through this some before, and again, I don't remember exactly the quotes I was wanting to pull from it, and this is already going to be a long stream. But pretty much, obviously, they're talking about, like, oh, look at how great our Political Military Affairs Bureau has been. And they are citing, of course, all of the revenue that has been achieved through this. But I would ask if is money really the best calculation for if this has been successful or not? I mean, it kind of says something that the Political Military Affairs Bureau, they are considering success to be money, not, lives saved, or, have we averted this many wars or military actions or anything like that. They are not judging their accomplishments in the political military spectrum based on effectiveness and peace brought to regions. Garbage truck driving. They are instead using money and job creation as a way to tell if they're doing good or not. As I said, you can keep wars going for forever and say, oh, look at how much money we're generating, look at all the jobs we're creating, all this kind of stuff, isn't it great? That's what they consider a success for their political military affairs bureau. Let's move on before I start ranting. I can feel it. I can feel it building. Okay. Secretary Pompeo's call with NATO. Remember, Trump did mention that he was going to be calling NATO and trying to get them involved in what's going on in Iran. And there was media coverage of that and saying, like, NATO's not going to get involved in this. It's all, craziness. So Secretary of State Pompeo spoke today. This was January 9th, yesterday, with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg regarding the Iranian regime's dangerous attack against Ain al-Assad and Erbil air bases, and the continued threat Iran poses to the region. Secretary Pompeo reiterated President Trump's call for NATO to become more involved in the Middle East, and the two agreed NATO could contribute more to regional security and the fight against international terrorism. The Secretary and Secretary General jointly condemned Iran's destabilizing violence and remain committed to countering international terrorism, including through NATO's participation in the global coalition to defeat ISIS and training missions in Iraq and Afghanistan. So it looks like NATO might be getting more involved. Remember, that is the North American Trade Organization. So, that's fun. As I said, Canada and Iran are trying to work together on the whole plane crash thing right now. So I'm curious to see if Iran will respond negatively to this conversation that NATO has had with Trump. Of course, this is not action from NATO yet. So I guess we'll see what happens. The U.S. continued partnership with Iraq. This is from today, January 10th. America is a force for good in the Middle East. Our military presence in Iraq is to continue the fight against ISIS, and the Secretary has said we are committed to protecting Americans, Iraqis, and our coalition partners. We have been unambiguous regarding how crucial our de-ISIS mission is in Iraq. At this time, any delegation sent to Iraq would be dedicated to discussing how to best recommit to our strategic partnership, not to discuss troop withdrawal, but our right appropriate force posture in the Middle East. Today, a NATO delegation is at the State Department to discuss increasing NATO's role in Iraq, in line with the President's desire for burden sharing in all of our collective defense efforts. There does, however, need to be a conversation between the U.S. and Iraqi governments, not just regarding security, but about our financial, economic, and diplomatic partnership. We want to be a friend and partner to a sovereign, prosperous, and stable Iraq. Yes, very interesting. So a NATO delegate is at the White House today. So they are discussing, at the State Department, not the White House. Sorry. So they are discussing NATO's involvement with this, and I am very curious to see what will happen with Iran regarding that. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about with the plane thing. Hold on, we have one more press release. I'll get through this first. Okay, so again from today, Secretary Pompeo's call with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Secretary Pompeo spoke to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to express condolences for the lives lost in the crash of Ukrainian International Airlines Flight 752. Secretary Pompeo offered the U.S. government's full assistance in the ongoing investigation. He also reaffirmed support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity and underscored our long-term strategic partnership. So remember, that flight was from Ukraine. So we have been working with Ukraine a lot over the years. Recently there was a lot of talk about the corruption in Ukraine. Remember, that's what the impeachment hearing is about. And Trump is saying, we've been giving Ukraine this money and everything, and we've been working with them so much, and they need to work on their corruption in the region. So I'm not surprised that they are bringing that up to Ukraine again, our long-term strategic partnership. So I'm curious to see what Ukraine's stance, regarding U.S. involvement with the investigation regarding the plane crash will be. So the thing that I was going to mention earlier about the crash that I did not, and why the kind of Western perspective of it is like that it's a tragedy, but it's an understandable tragedy, I guess, is kind of what they're saying, Not really. I mean, they're not. Nobody wants to say that a tragedy is like understandable. So I hope you get what I'm trying to get across. Apparently, in the past, I think it was 2003, 2004. It was quite a few years ago now, under a completely different administration, obviously, but there was a crash that the U.S. had caused. In fact, the U.S., when they fired the missile at the Iranian airplane, it tore the plane in half. It was extremely devastating. I believe there was almost 300 people that died in that flight. And it was a commercial airliner that was going near a U.S. ship. And so they fired the missile thinking that it was actually a smaller jet, but it was not. And so a lot of civilians perished in that. And who was that under? Reagan? Maybe? Nixon or Reagan? I get them confused. Forgive me. I occasionally get Nixon and Reagan confused. So they even said at the time, it's a tragedy, but kind of this is what happens in war, and you can understand their mistake, kind of thing. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that. At the same time, there apparently is a very old system that they are using for detecting what kind of airplane is over them. So sometimes when you're in that situation, you have to make a very quick decision over is it worth not shooting, not pulling the trigger, and, it possibly being an enemy that gets through and then does something else, versus, I don't know, it being a civilian plane like it was. I'm very sad about this situation. Loss of life makes me very, very, very sad. I'm one of those people that watches the news clips and stuff, and then I'm just in tears. That's one of the reasons why sometimes I don't cover some of the more gruesome stuff that's happening, because I get very emotionally involved. So, what's your guys' perspective on it? I mean, I know most of us view it as a tragedy. At least I hope most of us would be sad about, human loss of life. But I know there are a lot of military people that view this as an understandable mistake to make. So I'm curious to know what your guys' opinion is. Do you think it was an understandable mistake or not? Do you think that, the Iranian government, if they did do it, like, should they step up and admit to it? Because apparently the U.S. government in the past, when that happened, they didn't actually apologize. Like, they admitted that it was a mistake, but apparently they did not issue a formal apology to the Iranian people. Apparently, I was not alive. Well, no, I was alive. I was not paying attention to politics then. So there's that. No, maybe it was the 1980s. Never mind. I was thinking of something else. Sorry, my brain was just like Reagan, Nixon. Nah, that was longer than like 2000, 2003, 2004. No, I think it was the 1980s. The other thing that they've been talking about recently that had congressional approval in like 2002, 2003 has to do with the war efforts over in the Middle East. Sorry. Which brings me on to my next thing. I know this is a long stream, and I've been trying to go over a lot of the information and stuff that I have not been covering lately. So thank you, anybody that is watching or anything. Thank you so much. Thank you, people watching the replay. I will try to maybe go back and edit this, because this is going to be long of me just talking. Yeah, it's almost an hour and a half. Okay, so on to what got passed. Now that we have gone over everything that has happened, let's talk about what just got passed recently in the House, and does it have an effect on Trump or not? So the thing that got passed recently was House Concurrent Resolution 83. I did cover the vote and the debate on that last night, so if you want to see what they were saying about that, and if you want to see kind of the final vote and a whole bunch of summaries on it, then you can go and watch that. Again, it's a long stream. But I did go over it some. So House Concurrent Resolution 83, just to pretty much surmise it, whatever, is them saying that they want there to be congressional approval before presidents take this kind of drone strike action. Now, you know what, let me go ahead and pull it up, and I will show you where you can get house.gov, where you can get the information yourself as well regarding what they passed. Okay, so Thursday, January 9th, on the homepage here of house.gov, you can see it says legislative activity and committee schedules. If you make sure it's on Thursday, January 9th, let's see. Oh, did they? Oh, see, they don't have it on here. Let's go to recent votes. Okay, under recent votes, HCon Res 83. Now, right before they passed that, they passed the HRes 781, which stated that the House Concurrent Resolution 83, when voted on and approved, that it would go through without any amendments or anything adding to it. So they did do that. They passed that. Again, right now the House of Representatives is Democratic majority, and they only need 218 votes to be able to pass something. So they did pass it. And I'm not sure if on 781, I believe there was one Republican that voted yes on it, or yay, and everybody else voted no. So, the Concurrent Resolution 83, they voted on this, obviously, after 781. So, Congress is stating, they state that, Iran has been ramping things up and escalating matters and everything. United States has national interest in preserving its partnership with Iraq and other countries in the region, including by combating terrorists, including the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, preventing Iran from achieving a nuclear weapons capability, and supporting the people of Iraq, Iran, and other countries throughout the Middle East who demand an end to government corruption and violations of basic human rights. And then it says, The War Powers Resolution requires the president to consult with Congress in every possible instance before introducing United States armed force into hostilities. And they say Congress did not authorize military use against Iran, or at least this president's use of it. Pursuant to Section 5C of the War Powers Resolution, Congress hereby directs the president to terminate the use of armed forces to engage in hostilities in or against Iran. Unless Congress has declared war or enacted specific statutory authorization for such use of the armed forces, or such use of the armed forces is necessary and appropriate to defend against an imminent armed attack upon the United States, its territories, or possessions, or its armed forces, consistent with the requirement of the War Powers Resolution. And then it goes on to say that nothing in this bill, nothing in this section may be construed. So this bill will not cause the following things to happen: to prevent the president from using military force against Al-Qaeda or associated forces, to limit the obligation of executive branch set forth in the War Powers Resolution, to effect provisions of an act or joint resolution of Congress specifically authorizing the use of armed forces to engage in hostilities against Iran, or to prevent the use of necessary and appropriate military force to defend United States, allies, partners, or to authorize the use of military force. So this resolution, in my opinion, and in the opinion of one other representative that I am going to pull up the tweet from, I don't think that this actually really states that he did anything that he wasn't supposed to do. Because, again, the whole point of me playing the clip of Trump at the beginning was because he said repeatedly that Qasem Soleimani was planning on doing something that was going to harm Americans, its properties or territories, blah, blah, blah. And he has not released that information, nor has the State Department. Secretary Pompeo did say the same thing, that they had information and they had proof that he was going to carry out some kind of attack, or that he was at least working with other people to try to plan an attack. They have not released that information either to the public or to Congress. Now, Nancy Pelosi's response, her debate minutes in this, she said that, let me go ahead and pull up the tweet. If you haven't followed us on Twitter, then do so at Grow the Info is our name thing. So this is what I'm going to share in a second. I will not play the clip though, obviously. So Speaker Pelosi said, "We know well better than many in the administration the importance of classified information." And in response, Mr. McClintock, well, not probably in direct response to her, but about the situation, Mr. McClintock said, "Our Constitution is clear that only Congress can start a war, but only the President can wage it." So Nancy Pelosi's point is that she wants the information that they apparently have on whatever he was going to do. They want reassurance that Qasem Soleimani was acting as a terrorist. Again, Trump said that he was a very serious terrorist and that he was a horrible bad guy, and there's a lot of people in the region over there that would completely disagree with that. Well, you know, they might be like, oh yeah, he was a bad guy, but he was, I don't know, a means to an end kind of thing, you know? So that's why there's a huge funeral procession for him. And we have seen a lot of leaks coming out of the White House and from other agencies and stuff regarding the Trump administration's actions and things that are going on. So while Nancy Pelosi does say that, and she might be right, that some of them have been there for a lot longer than people in the administration, and they are a lot more used to having to keep information quiet than maybe some people in the administration, or people working with the administration, like Giuliani, for example, is not very good at keeping his mouth shut. So that's the kind of shade that she's throwing. At the same time, the White House administration and the State Department have also said that they don't want to share the information regarding the stuff that Qasem Soleimani was doing because it could have an impact on their sources or their methods. I want to know what their methods are, and their sources. I want to know what their sources are too. Which, I mean, is very true. If you give out information to people, if your methods are not the best, if your sources, if you're getting your information from, a bad source, then that, of course, would be something else that that the media would be like, look what's going on. And then I'm sure the House of Representatives, I'm sure Pelosi and Schumer and everybody would be all over that about, like, look, Trump's getting information from this terrorist or that terrorist, when at the same time they're calling Soleimani, someone that was fighting ISIS, they're calling him a terrorist, and they're, so I can understand both sides of that. Let's see here. I didn't realize you guys were still on my face. I'm sitting here, like, raising my eyebrows and stuff. Okay, so the representative that did vote yes on this was Matt Gaetz, and he tweeted out a clip that he did on Fox News, which I am not going to play because I don't want to get flagged or nothing, but he said, I spoke to POTUS today, this was yesterday that he tweeted this, and he told me he's more anti-war than I am. This resolution did not criticize the president. It said if any president wants to drag our nation into war, Congress must approve it. That's something I believe, and I think POTUS deeply believes. Now, Trump has, of course, said multiple times in the past that, he was against the wars going on, looking for weapons that weren't there, and all of the different things that our previous administrations have gotten us involved in situations where we're sending our military troops to different countries, and I'm not going to go through all the countries because there are so many, but we're sending them there on these apparent diplomatic missions and to quote-unquote help people. And his stance in campaigning was, why are we doing that when we have people that need help here? And I guess a big reason why we do stuff like that is because when our government does that and we send military forces over there, then we have territories there and we have property there. So if the U.S. government, if they're going to go help develop a nation, then that involves putting money into it, right? That involves maybe buying stuff. We don't just give the money over. He did say in a briefing thing recently that, like, something about like $1.5 billion in cash. No, it's not cash. It is not cash. It has a contract tied to it. We're not just like giving them a birthday card, with $1 billion frickin' dollars in it and they get to just go do whatever. That's not how it works. We take money over there and then we use like accounts there or other diplomats there that agree with our government, and then we do stuff. We buy properties, we buy companies, we put money into the system and everything. And when that happens, then if there's a rebel group, there's a militia in the area that comes and attacks whatever group, organization, property, our forces there, American contractors there, which this whole thing did get started with, was apparently an American contractor died. When we have those there and then a group goes and attacks them, then we can say, oh, that's a horrible thing. We got to go take out this dude now. We got to go take out that dude. They're trying to attack American forces. And I mean, if you want to go into loopholes, then the thing that they just passed, it did say that he was allowed to use armed forces if it's going to mean circumventing some kind of imminent attack against the United States, its territory, personnel, or property. And from my understanding, isn't that what Trump is at least saying that he did? Isn't that what they're saying that they did? That this dude was planning an attack and, like, other people died because of him, an American contractor died, and all this other kind of stuff. So, I mean, I agree with Representative Gates that it doesn't criticize his action, because I think in Matt Gates' view, that's, he acted according to this already. So it doesn't actually really bar his actions in the future. It doesn't tie his hands behind his back, kind of thing. As I've said, it's pretty much, it's kind of what he did, So I don't know what the point of this was, other than for the House to pass something that appears to condemn his actions. Now, this is not law. It's not completely passed yet. The whole point of the concurrent resolution, and why it's not just called a House resolution or a House bill by itself. I'm sorry. I need coffee. Hold on. Oh, my coffee's almost empty. So the whole point of them passing a House concurrent resolution is that now that they have passed it in the House, then they send it on to the Senate, or the Senate has to have a very similar kind of thing that they pass. This does not have to actually be signed by the president to go into effect. However, even though they did just pass it in the House, that does not mean that it's like 100% what's going to happen, okay? So there's still some stuff going on. That's why I'm saying it doesn't seem to do much, and it seems like it's kind of just for show, So yeah. And of course, a lot of people choose not to cover stuff that seems like it's just for show like that. The reason why I did decide to stream that whole thing yesterday is because I think we need to pay attention to the optics in this whole situation and see what they're, how they're trying to sway us and in which way, and the things that they're trying to throw out there and say to make it seem like they're taking action this way or that when they're actually not. So, I guess that's all that. There have been a lot of people talking about HCon Res 83 today so far. It seems to be a lot of back and forth regarding it. I have seen some news outlets saying that this does make it so that in the future other presidents can't take action when they need to, and I don't agree on that, because it does lay out, Nancy Pelosi did say that part of the reason why she praises this HCon Res 83 is because it does allow Trump or other presidents in the future to be able to take, certain steps. And I don't believe that this is even permanently binding. So yeah, but of course then in response to her saying, well, he can still do stuff like this in the future, well, why is, I don't know, it seems to me like he could say, well, these are the steps that I took, so this is why I did it anyway. I said that like 5 times. I'm sorry. I'm rambling. It has been a long stream and a lot of me talking. I usually don't talk on my streams this much. I usually talk some and then I play something else that's going on. So my brain is done with the discussing this. Oh my goodness. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I know that there have been a lot of people that have been concerned about this. There were apparently a lot of young people being concerned about the whole draft situation. Just so you know, if you're trying to find information out on how the draft works, the website I believe is sss.gov. It's called the Selective Service System. And it gives you some information on there. I did try to, a few days ago, go to their website, and it kept crashing. It would not pull up for quite a while, and then after about 15 minutes I tried it again, and the homepage would load, but then I was trying to go to where you can register or something to see if I could get more information, and the only thing that would pull up was the homepage. That was it. So I know there have been quite a few people on their website recently, so if you're concerned about the draft, if you want to look up that stuff, then you might have to be patient with their website, but I believe that's what it is sss.gov. And again, if you want press releases from the State Department, all you have to do is go to state.gov and click on the press section, and then you can look through their press releases or speeches or all kinds of good stuff. If you want to be able to get quotes from the president and what he says, then you can go to whitehouse.gov, and where it says the administration, there's a little drop-down menu. You can go to administration and go to the president's remarks and stuff like that to be able to get the actual transcript where it's written, instead of just trying to listen to him and what he says. So there's all that information. Thank you all for joining me. I know there's always developing stuff that's happening. You know what? Let me go ahead and check Twitter quick and see what is that. Police in Georgia search for a man who broke into Taco Bell, made a meal, and took a nap. Oh, dude just smoked a bit too much. Alright, let's go to the trending thing. Let's just quick, I got the stream up. To end, we will just, apparently there was a lockdown at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida. I did not hear about that this morning. Alright, so let's just look quick at the trending stuff that's on Twitter in the news section, not just whatever stuff, No Kim Kardashian stuff. In the news trending right now, a lockdown has been lifted at an Air Force base in Florida. Mexico's Popocatépetl volcano spews ash and lava. Thousands in Puerto Rico still without power after a series of earthquakes. By the way, you guys, if you pray, if you're religious, if you're not, send thoughts, prayers, whatever, to the people out in Puerto Rico. They have been getting hit hard with earthquakes. And specifically, pray for everybody there. But if you're unaware, the whole FCC thing that's going on, there are a few YouTubers that have been talking a lot about it, and covering the whole legal aspect in depth. One YouTuber that has been going to the government and trying to talk to them about it, trying to figure it out, trying to discuss with them the kinds of effects that things that they're passing are going to have on family vloggers and stuff like that, is Jeremy Johnston. He has a YouTube channel called J House Vlogs, which I've been watching for a few years. Me and my kids, we love J House Vlogs, but they recently moved to Puerto Rico, and so I'm worried about their family and everything. And he is somebody that is on the ground, flying back and forth from Puerto Rico to Washington, D.C. to figure out this FCC stuff for us, and sharing all the information that he can. So, go over to J House Vlogs and maybe leave them a comment or something, say, I hope you're safe, thanks for all the hard work that you do, or something like that, if you guys can. That'd be really awesome. I know that they have definitely, as a family vlog channel, they've had to do stuff with their channel and everything regarding the regulations. So if you guys can go give them some love, then I know that they would appreciate that, especially with this hard time going on with the earthquakes in Puerto Rico. It's so sad. Okay, so what else is trending? Supreme Court of India orders review of internet suspension in Jammu and Kashmir. December jobs report, the U.S. fell short of expectations. House passes the resolution that we just talked about. Justin Trudeau says evidence indicates Ukrainian plane was shot down by Iranian forces. Brazil's Supreme Court allows Netflix to show a film depicting Jesus as gay. I thought they ordered them to take it down. I thought I just saw a headline that said that they had to take it down. I don't know. The risk of nuclear war is growing, according to Bloomberg Opinion. Celebrities raise millions to tackle Australian fires. British and Irish governments draft deal aimed at restoring devolved government in Northern Ireland. Representative Ilhan Omar says she's stricken with PTSD over conversations around war. And other stuff. Whole bunch of other stuff. Okay. So that's what's trending on the Twitter box right now. Again, the information regarding HCon Res 83 and stuff, it's fairly simple. Again, you can go to the, house.gov and look under the recent votes section and get the actual text of what it says. Because reading through it pretty quickly, you can just see what it says instead of having to listen to this mainstream media network and that mainstream media network, and they're both like saying opposite things, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. Just go read the text yourself, because they are going to twist and manipulate stuff just to keep your eyes glued to the screen. That's why I try to just give you guys the information and give you the source, because I do like to share my opinion some, but that way you guys know that the information is not being filtered by my opinion. You have the source, you can go get the information yourself, and obviously if you want to share it with, your own viewers or whatever, then I more than encourage you to do that. That is also why on our website, growtheinfo.com, that I try to put out big, long press release lists, recall notices, all kinds of stuff, and it's links to the actual government stuff, the actual government released information. It links back to the government press release or the USDA or whatever other kind of thing. So that way you guys have all that good, solid information yourselves. So thank you so much for watching and joining us here. And each and every time that you come and you join in the stream, every time you come in, and even if you can't stay, you just hit that like button, or just leave a few comments. Every time that you share our videos on social media, it really, really helps the algorithms. I have seen our numbers going up for watch time and audience participation and stuff, and it makes me so happy, because I know that when that happens, that means that this information is getting out to more people, and that's what I am all about. That's what we're all about here at Grow the Info. We're all about growing and spreading the information and the proliferation of information. So make sure you check out our website, growtheinfo.com, if you're about that too, and follow us on Twitter at growtheinfo. Hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications if you haven't already. And if you hit that little thumb up, then we would really, really appreciate it. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you so much. Thank you for spending your time here. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Let's get on to the music.